Stop! Before you spend another Australian $2 coin, check your pockets, your car, and every coin jar in your house right now. These coins could be hidden treasure. Do not spend them. Check now. Most Australians walk past valuable coins every day without realizing they're holding hidden wealth. Nobody talks about these coins, yet collectors are fighting over them in real auction shock moments. Some have become silent fortunes, hiding in plain sight. And here's the scary part. Each coin in this countdown gets rarer, more valuable, and far more dangerous to ignore. Stay until the end, because these coins change everything, and the final one could completely alter how you see loose change forever. Coin number 1. Yes, doesn't look impressive. In fact, that's exactly why it's so dangerous. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out an old 2001 Australian $2 coin, glancing at it for less than a second, and spending it on a coffee. Sounds normal, doesn't it? But what if that ordinary-looking coin was actually one of the most fascinating hidden treasures still circulating through Australia today? That's the trap. Valuable coins rarely announce themselves. They don't glow. They don't sparkle. They hide among ordinary change, waiting for someone observant enough to notice. Most people never do. The story begins in 2001, Ampere's year that carried enormous significance across Australia. The nation was entering a new century. Technology was rapidly changing daily life. Financial systems were evolving. Consumer spending patterns were shifting. Australia was moving confidently into a new era, and billions of dollars were changing hands through shops, businesses, banks, and households. Coins produced during this period entered circulation immediately and faced heavy use. Nobody expected that decades later, collectors would become obsessed with preserving examples from this era. Yet that's exactly what happened. Now think about how many $2 coins Australians handle every week. Thousands pass through supermarkets, service stations, vending machines, and cash registers every single day. Most become worn, scratched, damaged, or lost. That's why survival matters. The longer a coin remains in circulation, the harder it becomes to find original examples with attractive characteristics. This is not fiction. The coin sitting unnoticed in a drawer today could be one of the few surviving examples carrying the exact qualities serious collectors desperately want. Pick up a 2001 Australian $2 coin and study the obverse. You'll find the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II surrounded by lettering, identifying her title, and Australia. Even in circulated condition, the design carries an unmistakable presence. Collectors often examine every tiny detail of the Queen's portrait. They study wear patterns, surface preservation, color changes, and overall eye appeal. Most people see a coin. Collectors see a story. That difference creates opportunities many Australians completely miss. Turn the coin over, and the reverse immediately reveals one of Australia's most recognizable designs. The Aboriginal elder portrait, created by Horst Hahn, commands attention, surrounded by the Southern Cross and native grass elements. Above appears Australia, while the denomination $2 is prominently displayed. It's a design millions of Australians have seen countless times. Yet very few stop to appreciate how iconic it has become. Collectors often become emotionally attached to designs that represent national identity, and this reverse design has developed exactly that kind of following. The physical characteristics of the coin add another layer of fascination. The 2001 Australian $2 coin is composed primarily of aluminium bronze, giving it that distinctive golden appearance Australians instantly recognize. It weighs approximately 6.6 grams, has a diameter of around 20.5 millimeters, and a thickness close to 2.5 millimeters. Its girth, measured by circumference, is roughly 64 millimeters. These numbers might seem ordinary, but experienced collectors can often recognize a $2 coin's unique feel the moment it touches their hand. It's part of what makes collecting so addictive. Here's where things start becoming really interesting. Many surviving examples from 2001 show heavy circulation. They display scratches, dull surfaces, dark patches, and years of wear. Some collectors actually love that. Why? Because those marks tell a story. Every scratch represents movement through Australian life. Every dark patch reflects years of circulation. Every worn detail suggests countless transactions across the country. A coin that genuinely lived, its history often creates more emotional appeal than something that looks artificially perfect. That brings us to one of the biggest mistakes people make. They find an old coin and immediately try to make it shiny. Never clean the coin. Never. Cleaning destroys originality. Original toning matters. Natural surfaces matter. Once a coin is cleaned, scratched by polishing, or altered by chemicals, much of its collector appeal can disappear forever. Some of the most valuable coins in the world look old because they are old. Their age is part of their identity. Trying to erase that history often reduces desirability rather than increasing it. Something else collectors obsess over is detail. Tiny details. Details so small, most people would never notice them. They examine lettering sharpness. They compare surface texture. They inspect edges. They study color consistency. They search for subtle characteristics that separate one coin from another. Most people miss this. Collectors don't. In fact, entire purchasing decisions can be made based on details invisible to the average person. This detail changes everything when valuable examples appear at auction. As years pass, supply continues shrinking. Coins disappear. Some are damaged beyond recognition. Others are thrown away. Many remain trapped in forgotten collections. Every year reduces the number available to future collectors. Meanwhile, demand continues rising as more Australians become interested in coin collecting. That's a powerful combination. Increasing demand and shrinking supply create competition, and competition creates excitement. It's one reason collectors often hold rather than sell. They know replacing certain coins becomes harder over time. Auction rooms reveal the true psychology of collectors. At first, bidding can seem calm, quiet, almost cautious. Then somebody recognizes an opportunity. Another collector sees the same thing. Suddenly, bids begin climbing. The atmosphere changes. Determined buyers push higher and higher because they understand how difficult certain coins are to replace. What began as a simple $2 coin transforms into an object of obsession. Watching that happen is one of the most fascinating parts of the coin world. Collectors aren't only buying metal. They're buying rarity. They're buying survival. They're buying stories. A 2001 Australian $2 coin represents a specific moment in Australia's transition into the 21st century. It carries cultural significance, historical context, and a connection to everyday Australian life. Those emotional connections matter enormously. They help explain why collectors remain passionate about coins that many people still treat as ordinary change. For the specific 2001 Australian $2 coin, in old circulated condition we're discussing today, auction attention has reached astonishing levels. Some examples have been associated with values approaching $370 zeroth. Let that sink in. A coin many people spend without a second thought could represent serious money. Hidden wealth. A silent fortune. a life-changing opportunity. You're holding a fortune without even knowing it. That's exactly why experienced collectors check every date and every coin before spending it. If you discover one, begin by examining its overall condition. Look closely at the design details. Study the surfaces. Search for originality rather than perfection. Resist the temptation to clean anything. Most importantly, consider professional grading. Professional grading is critical because authentication and expert evaluation provide confidence in the marketplace. Serious collectors often rely on grading when making major purchasing decisions. Without it, understanding true value becomes much more difficult. Patience is another secret many successful collectors understand. They don't rush. They learn. They compare. They preserve. They know that one careless mistake can destroy years of potential appreciation. They also know that opportunities often reward those willing to wait. Patience creates wealth in collecting because scarcity tends to become more noticeable over time. Coins ignored today may attract far more attention tomorrow. So remember this warning. Do not spend this coin if you find one. Never clean the coin. Protect its original surfaces. Original toning matters. Professional grading is critical. What appears to be an ordinary 2001 Australian $2 coin could actually be one of the most overlooked treasures still hiding in circulation. And somehow, coin number 2 is even more shocking. Its story is stranger, its collector demand is more intense, and the number of people accidentally losing it every single day is enough to make experienced collectors nervous. Stay tuned, because what comes next is bigger than anyone expects. Coin number 2. Coin number 2 begins with a mistake millions of Australians make every single week. They receive a $2 coin in their change, glance at it for less than a second, and spend it immediately. No inspection, no second look, no curiosity. And that's exactly why the 2012 Australian $2 coin has become such a fascinating hidden treasure. The most valuable coins rarely look valuable. They blend into everyday life so perfectly that people carry them for years without realizing they're holding something collectors desperately want. This is one of those coins. And what you're about to discover explains why experienced collectors never ignore a 2012 $2 piece. The year 2012 was a remarkable period in Australia. The country was navigating a changing economic landscape while continuing to grow and modernize. Cash transactions remained common, and millions of coins flowed through the economy every day. Businesses, banks, transport systems, and retailers handled enormous quantities of coinage. During periods of heavy circulation, coins face constant wear, damage, and loss. Most never survive in desirable condition. That's why collectors pay close attention to coins from years that appear ordinary at first glance. Sometimes the most overlooked years produce the most surprising opportunities. Now imagine a collector sitting quietly at a coin fair. Hundreds of coins are displayed across dozens of tables. Shiny pieces attract crowds. Rare commemoratives draw attention. Yet every now and then, an experienced collector stops at a tray containing ordinary-looking circulated coins and suddenly becomes interested. Why? Because they recognize something others miss. They understand that rarity is not always about appearance. Sometimes it's about survival. Sometimes it's about demand. Sometimes it's about a specific date that quietly becomes more important as years pass. The 2012 Australian $2 coin fits perfectly into that category. Take a close look at the obverse. The portrait of Queen Elizabeth II dominates the design, surrounded by lettering identifying her title and Australia. Most people have seen this portrait countless times and never thought twice about it. Collectors do the exact opposite. They study every detail. They examine wear on the portrait. They inspect lettering sharpness. They compare surface preservation. Tiny differences matter enormously. What appears ordinary to one person may look exceptional to someone who understands exactly what they're seeing. This detail changes everything. Turn the coin over, and the reverse design immediately reminds you that you're holding one of Australia's most recognizable circulating coins. The Aboriginal elder portrait stands proudly in the center, framed by native grass elements and the Southern Cross. The word Australia appears above, while $2 is displayed prominently below. It's a design Australians know instantly, yet familiarity often creates blindness. Because people see this design every day, they stop paying attention to it. Collectors never stop paying attention. That's one reason they find treasures others accidentally spend. The physical characteristics of the coin add another layer to its appeal. The 2012 Australian $2 coin is struck from aluminium bronze, giving it that distinctive golden color. It weighs approximately 6.6 grams and has a diameter of around 20.5 millimeters. Its thickness is close to 2.5 millimeters, while its girth, measured by circumference, is approximately 64 millimeters. These dimensions create a unique feel in the hand. Experienced collectors often recognize important coins simply by handling them. The weight, balance, and texture become familiar over time, turning ordinary coin searching into something that feels almost instinctive. What makes old circulated examples particularly fascinating is the evidence of their journey. Every mark tells a story. Every scratch represents movement through Australian life. Every worn detail reflects years of use in shops, cafes, markets, and businesses across the country. Some coins traveled thousands of kilometers through circulation. Others remained in one region for years. The surfaces become a record of survival. Most people see wear and assume a coin has lost importance. Collectors often see exactly the opposite. They see authenticity. One thing that repeatedly surprises new collectors is how quickly coins disappear. People spend them, lose them, damage them, throw them into drawers, forget them in vehicles. Some are permanently removed from circulation and never return. As years pass, fewer original examples remain available. That's where rarity begins developing. Not necessarily because the coins started rare, but because survival becomes increasingly difficult. The longer a coin exists, the more opportunities there are for it to vanish. Most people miss this entirely. Serious collectors understand it perfectly. Another factor driving interest is originality. Originality has become almost an obsession among experienced collectors. They want coins that look natural. They want surfaces that tell the truth about a coin's history. That's why one warning is absolutely critical. Never clean the coin. Cleaning may seem harmless, but it can permanently destroy collector appeal. Harsh polishing removes character. Chemical cleaning alters surfaces. Abrasive rubbing creates damage. Original toning matters. Natural color matters. Once originality disappears, it can never truly be restored. The production environment surrounding circulating coinage also adds intrigue. Minting facilities work under enormous pressure to meet demand. Dyes experience wear. Machinery operates continuously. Millions of coins must be produced with consistency and precision. Every coin begins its life identical to countless others. Yet circulation changes everything. Over time, each coin develops a unique identity. That transformation is one reason collectors become emotionally attached to certain pieces. No two circulated coins age exactly the same way. Something else that fascinates collectors is market psychology. Demand often grows quietly at first. Only a small group of enthusiasts notices. Then information spreads. More collectors become interested. Competition increases. Suddenly, a coin that once passed unnoticed begins attracting attention from serious buyers. This pattern has repeated itself countless times throughout coin collecting history. The 2012 Australian $2 coin has become part of that conversation because more collectors are recognizing its significance and fewer attractive examples remain available. Auction rooms provide the perfect example of this phenomenon. At first, the atmosphere feels calm. Bidders study catalogs and examine photographs. Then, the auction begins. A desirable coin appears. One collector places a bid. Another responds. A third joins the contest. Suddenly, the room changes. The competition becomes intense. Quiet interest transforms into determination. Collectors push higher because they know opportunities are limited. Watching that happen reveals something important. Rarity is not defined by a catalogue alone. It's defined by what people are willing to fight for. For the specific 2012 Australian $2 coin in old circulated condition we're discussing today, auction market attention has reached astonishing heights. Some examples have been associated with values around $160 zeroth. Think about that for a moment. A coin most Australians would spend without hesitation could represent serious money. Hidden wealth. A silent fortune. A life-changing opportunity. You're holding a fortune without even knowing it. That's why experienced collectors check every coin before spending it. The risk of overlooking something important is simply too great. If you happen to discover a 2012 example, begin by checking the date carefully. Then examine the surfaces. Look for originality. Study the details. Resist the urge to improve its appearance. Never clean the coin. Store it safely and handle it carefully. Most importantly, consider professional grading. Professional grading is critical because authentication and condition assessment create confidence in the market. Serious buyers often prefer independently verified coins. Without professional evaluation, understanding true value becomes much more difficult. Patience is another lesson many successful collectors learn over time. Wealth in coin collecting is rarely built through rushing. It's built through observation, knowledge, and preservation. People who take the time to understand what they own often make better decisions. They avoid costly mistakes. They protect originality. They recognize that supply keeps shrinking while demand can continue growing. Patience creates opportunities that hurried collectors often miss. So remember this warning. Do not spend this coin if you find one. Never clean the coin. Protect its original surfaces. Original toning matters. Professional grading is critical. What appears to be an ordinary 2012 Australian $2 coin could actually be one of the most overlooked treasures hiding in circulation today. And somehow, the final coin in this countdown is even more extraordinary. Its rarity is more intimidating, its collector demand is more aggressive, and the number of people accidentally losing it every day would shock even experienced coin hunters. Stay with me, because coin number 3 is where this story becomes truly unbelievable. Next up, coin number 3. Coin number 3 begins with something that drives collectors absolutely mad. Not a famous error, not a flashy commemorative, not a coin covered in unusual colors. Instead, it's a coin so ordinary that millions of Australians have held one without ever giving it a second glance. That's exactly what makes the 2006 Australian $2 coin so dangerous to ignore. Right now, somewhere in Australia, one could be sitting in a purse, resting in a cash register, or hiding in a forgotten coin jar. The owner has no idea they're holding something collectors constantly search for. And that's the frightening part. Hidden treasure rarely looks like treasure. Think back to 2006, Australia was experiencing strong economic activity, growing consumer confidence, and an increasingly modern financial system. Cash remained a major part of everyday transactions. Millions upon millions of coins traveled through shops, transport networks, service stations, cafes, and businesses. The average Australian never thought twice about a $2 coin. It was simply money, a tool for everyday life. Yet years later, collectors would begin looking back at certain surviving examples with completely different eyes. What once seemed ordinary slowly transformed into something much harder to find. Here's what makes this story so fascinating. Every coin starts its life with enormous competition. Millions are produced. Millions enter circulation. Millions appear identical. But time changes everything. Coins are damaged, lost, bent, scratched, forgotten, removed from circulation, thrown into drawers, left behind in vehicles. Decade after decade, the surviving population becomes smaller. That's when scarcity begins creating opportunities. Most people never notice this process happening. Collectors watch it constantly. They understand that survival can be just as important as mintage numbers. Take a close look at the obverse of the 2006 Australian $2 coin. You'll see the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II surrounded by inscriptions identifying her title and Australia. At first glance, it appears familiar because Australians have seen similar portraits for decades. Yet collectors don't just look at the portrait. They inspect every detail. They analyze the hair, the lettering, the fields around the design, and the wear patterns. Tiny differences can create enormous interest. Most people overlook these details completely. Experienced collectors often focus on them first. Now turn the coin over. The reverse features one of Australia's most iconic circulating designs. The Aboriginal elder portrait stands proudly at the centre, surrounded by native grass elements and the Southern Cross. Above appears Australia, while $2 sits below. It's a design recognised instantly across the country. Yet familiarity often becomes the enemy of discovery. Because Australians see this design every day, many assume every example is identical and equally common. That assumption causes valuable opportunities to slip away unnoticed. The physical characteristics of the coin add another layer of collector fascination. The 2006 Australian $2 coin is composed of aluminium bronze, creating its distinctive golden appearance. It weighs approximately 6.6 grams, measures about 20.5 millimeters in diameter, and has a thickness close to 2.5 millimeters. Its girth, measured by circumference, is roughly 64 millimeters. These measurements create a unique feel that experienced collectors immediately recognize. Hold enough $2 coins, and you begin noticing subtle differences in wear, texture, and appearance that casual observers never detect. One thing that makes this particular coin especially appealing is its fine condition. Fine condition occupies an interesting space in the collecting world. The coin clearly shows evidence of circulation, proving it participated in Australian daily life, yet enough detail remains visible to preserve its character and attractiveness. Many collectors love this balance. They don't necessarily want a coin that looks untouched. They want a coin that tells a story. Fine condition often provides exactly that combination of history and preservation. Now let's talk about something collectors obsess over: originality. Originality has become one of the most important concepts in modern coin collecting. Natural surfaces, authentic color, and untouched appearance can dramatically influence collector interest. That's why one warning must be taken seriously. Never clean the coin. Cleaning destroys originality. Harsh polishing removes natural character. Chemicals can alter color permanently. Once originality disappears, it cannot truly be recovered. Original toning matters. Natural aging matters. Serious collectors know the difference instantly. Another fascinating aspect involves the tiny details collectors fixate on. Some examine lettering sharpness. Others focus on surface texture. Some study edge quality. Others compare color consistency. These details might seem insignificant to the average person, but collectors often spend years learning how to evaluate them. Entire purchasing decisions can depend on characteristics most people would never notice. This detail changes everything when a desirable coin appears in front of a knowledgeable buyer. Something else worth understanding is how collector demand develops. Demand doesn't always arrive suddenly. Sometimes it builds quietly over years. A small group of collectors becomes interested. Information spreads. More collectors start searching. Available examples become harder to find. Then competition intensifies. The coin that once circulated unnoticed suddenly becomes the focus of serious attention. The 2006 Australian $2 coin has experienced exactly this kind of growing interest because more collectors are recognizing its significance, while the number of attractive survivors continues shrinking. Auction rooms reveal this reality in dramatic fashion. A desirable coin appears. The room seems calm at first, then bidding starts. One collector raises a paddle. Another immediately responds. The pace increases. Determination replaces caution. Suddenly, people who understand rarity begin competing aggressively. The atmosphere changes completely. What looked like a simple coin moments earlier becomes the center of an intense contest. Watching this happen helps explain why collectors become so passionate about coins that most people still spend without hesitation. Many collectors refuse to sell their best examples. That might sound strange until you understand the psychology. They know replacement becomes difficult. They know demand continues rising. They know supply continues shrinking. Every year, fewer original examples remain available. Every year, more people enter the hobby. This combination creates pressure. Not economic pressure alone, but emotional pressure. Collectors become attached to coins representing history, survival, and scarcity. That's why many prefer holding rather than selling. For the specific 2006 Australian $2 coin in fine condition we're discussing today, auction market attention has reached extraordinary levels. Some examples have been associated with values around $150 zeroth. Think about that carefully. A coin worth only $2 in face value could potentially represent serious money. Hidden wealth, silent fortune, life-changing opportunity. You're holding a fortune without even knowing it.